Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video and for the latest from the live radar, run for the latest UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as we are in the midst of a pretty intense heat wave at the moment. We are likely to see the hottest temperatures of the year so far through Monday, and for a few it could be even hotter on Tuesday, with anywhere around 34 to 36 degrees as being the expected top temperature. As we progress through the middle to second half of the week, it will cool down as we see a bit more of a westerly flow. There will be some rain, some showers, maybe some thunderstorms around, but some of that is still pretty uncertain exactly how that heat will get pushed away. But we know it will be pushed away, and it will be fresher into the first 5, 6, 7 days of July. However, as we'll see from the longer range charts, beyond that, already signs that it could heat up once again. The GFS, it is a bit of an outlier today, not got too much support, but goes for another intense heat wave, being the hottest time of the year, which is around the middle portion of July. We could see temperatures as high as Monday or even higher than that, so could be looking at mid to high 30s in that sort of scenario. Of course though, we'll look at that in a bit more detail in the second half of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see we have got a bit of rain around across northern and western Scotland at the moment, but for most it's another dry, hot day. Now, of course, we are around the summer solstice, so the sun is really intense at the moment. Very high UV levels, very easy to get sunburn out there, and it does make it pretty unbearable if you are sat straight in that sun. Combined with the, of course, air temperatures being in the high 20s, it is a scorching day out there for most. Now, if you put on those temperatures at the moment, according to this, just after 2 p.m, you see where it's hottest at the moment across much of England, into Wales, spreading even into northern England and parts of Scotland, which have had a pretty cool week so far, and into the Republic of Ireland as well. Again, I have to reiterate, we are on the peripheries of the heat. The majority of the heat is across France, Germany, southern Europe, especially Italy, Spain and Portugal, and we are going to see a little bit of this heat, that sort of high 30s heat, through Monday and Tuesday in the far southeast. But even though, yes, it is pretty horrific, it is hot, oppressive out there at the moment, it's nothing compared to what some of mainland Europe is getting at the moment. In fact, today is actually slightly cooler for most than it was through Saturday, and that's because we've seen a slight breeze pick up and a little bit of cooler air mixing in from the north, again just halting those temperatures by a degree or two. Still very hot, just not quite as hot as it was yesterday, and you see that on the latest 2 meter temperatures over on net weather. Now, of course, we looked at this at the same time pretty much yesterday, and we were seeing 28, 29s, 30s. Now it's more 25, 26, 27. Still very hot, up towards those heat wave thresholds, but it is about a degree or two cooler than it was this time yesterday, and it's just because of that slight cooler air mixing in for a short period of time. But it is going to disappear tomorrow, and that southerly wind is going to re-emerge, and we are going to tap into that intense heat across mainland Europe. Now, if you look at the latest UKV, you see bits and bobs of rain across the northwest at the moment, but that will clear overnight, and the wind will veer to a southerly for Monday, and it will be very hot. You can see where the dividing line between the very hot and the slightly less hot areas across Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland and Western Scotland, where rain will start to move in. There is the risk of a few thunderstorms breaking out as well, a bit of instability around, but again, they will be isolated and very hard to predict, so just watch out for those. As we progress into Tuesday, some of that cloud and some cooler air will move in, but just to the south of that thicker cloud, which stretches across Wales, the Midlands and northern England, we are still in the very hot air, so still being very oppressive for the 1st of July, and temperatures, as I said, could get even higher. 36 degrees is a possibility somewhere around London. Into Wednesday, though, that cloud and rain clears through, and you can see some showers, maybe some storms around as the cooler air sweeps in, and it will still be warm in most areas through Thursday and Friday, but it will be quite a bit less warm in terms of those temperatures as we head towards the latter part of the week, mid-20s instead of the mid-30s. Now, if you look at those upper air temperatures, you can see that brief push of cooler air through this afternoon. You can see the upper air temperatures dropping to around 9 to 12 degrees. So still very warm, but just not quite the low to mid-teens we had last night or yesterday. As we progress into Monday, though, we go towards the mid to upper teens by the afternoon. 16, 17 degrees at 850 HPA, as said, could see low to mid-30s. Into Monday, that does get pushed away, but it could actually intensify slightly in the far southeast, maybe even a 20-degree isotherm moving in for a short period of time. So actually, the temperatures could be higher on Monday, but for a much smaller area. Much higher on Tuesday, but for a much smaller area than we had on Monday. Beyond that, though, as we head into Wednesday, that heat does get pushed away. Could still be hot across maybe Kent and Essex, maybe London here, but most through Thursday and Friday are into warm but much fresher air. Now, if you look at the 2 metre temperatures, you can see this afternoon sort of topping out around the 28 to 30 degree mark. So still exceeding those heatwave thresholds, but not really climbing much on yesterday. A bit more widespread, though, today with that heat solidifying. Into Monday, though, look at those dark reds across much of England and Wales. You can see where the dividing line is across Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland and Scotland, where it goes from low 20s down to mid-teens. That's where that rain and clouds moving in. But all eyes are on much of England and Wales, pretty much to the east of the Peak District and Pennines, and of course the mountains across Wales, down to sort of the Brecon Beacons, Snowdonia, to the east of that. That's where the intense heat is going to get trapped. And you see that with those dark reds, widely 30 to 34 degrees. Could see an isolated 35, maybe a 36, but I think it's more likely into Tuesday. Overnight, though, temperatures are really hot. Going to be really tough sleeping, with a lot of England there staying around the 18 to 21 degree mark. So tropical night is possible. And you can see already by lunchtime on Tuesday, we're into the low 30s. And by the afternoon, again, could see 30 to 36 degrees. A much smaller area concentrated on the south and the east. Further north, it's much, much cooler. You can see into Wednesday starting to subside further, maybe a 26 or 27, but most low 20s or even high teens where we see the cloud and the rain. Thursday, warm, low to mid-20s, but just nowhere near as oppressive as it was at the start of the week. So back towards average conditions, much more pleasant conditions, at least in my opinion. And I hope most people have been in much more pleasant warmth there. Looking very oppressive in the next day or two. Now, if you look at the latest GFS, you can see why. You've got this big heat dome across much of northern and western Europe at the moment. Very hot, but subsiding into next week with a westerly flow. It stays pretty cool and actually unsettled there throughout the first kind of 6 or 7 days of July. But look what happens next. High pressure builds back over the top of us, a southerly wind, and it potentially develops a sustained heat wave once again. The 15-degree isotherm moves in, even the 20-degree isotherm, and this is coinciding with the middle of July, the hottest period of the year. So I would suspect temperatures climb even further. Look at those temperatures. 34 to 37 degrees here. And again, this is a lower resolution run. So 38, 39 degrees could be seen here. Some ridiculous heat developing from this run. And another spell of 37 degrees there into the 14th of July. And unfortunately, can't have a look at the 15th, but suspect it could be similar temperatures. So some ridiculous heat there. Of course, the all-time temperature record is getting towards that 40-degree mark. I think it's 40.3. So could we threaten that? With this sort of run, it becomes a possibility. But, of course, this is one GFS run. It hasn't got too much support. But given the amount of southerly flows we've had over the course of June, I wouldn't be surprised to see more during July. And, of course, July is the hottest month of the year. So these southerly flows are going to be a degree or two hotter. So high 30s, maybe threatening 40 degrees. I do think it is a real possibility. Definitely of what we've seen so far this summer, we are in prime conditions to see that. Very hot and dry Europe, with southerly winds being favoured with the current setup. Again, I wouldn't be surprised for that pattern to occur. If you do look at the latest GM, Only goes out to day 10, of course, so we're not going to get into that same time frame the GFS was showing, but it's similar over the next few days. That westerly flow re-emerges, and to be honest, towards the early part of July, it's very similar to the GFS, where it's looking pretty fresh, westerly, but that heat is never too far away across southern Europe up towards the Mediterranean, so I wouldn't be surprised again if that did start to build back in. And finally, if compared to the ECMWF, again, very hot over the next few days. That westerly flow re-emerging, looking pretty unsettled there throughout the first week of July. And again, high pressure starting to build back in, but the heat doesn't quite push up from the south as that high doesn't get going across northern and western Europe. So it's similar to the GFS in terms of it's building high pressure back in, but it's not quite as dominant as the GFS, hence not quite as hot. You can see from the ensembles, though, very hot over the next 2, 3, 4 days. Big drop off through Wednesday. They're back down towards average or even below average for a day or two. Precipitation increases, but it's mostly showery precipitation, so it could be heavy and thundery in a few spots. And it stays around average for a good 5 to 7 days. So much fresher, low 20s for most there during the first week of July. But then you can see as we head towards the middle portion of July, not only the ensemble start to tick up, but you can see that operational GFS. It's not a complete outlier, it's got some support, but it goes very hot. Not only just a spike in heat, it's a sort of reoccurring pattern day on day. That heat does build. So it definitely would put us in prime condition to see some really high temperatures there into mid-July. And you can see that from the 2-meter temperatures here. Very hot over the next few days, dropping there into early July, and then potentially escalating once again. And if you finally compare to the latest ECMWF, again, very hot over the next couple of days, dropping back towards average, and then again, potentially climbing there into the middle of July, but not as clear-cut signal. Definitely, though, a signal for some more rain there into early July, definitely in the form of showers, but maybe some persistent bands at times. We saw that westerly flow coming back in from the majority of runs, so it definitely looks like a high chance we do see some rain, which is a good thing. We do not want to go the whole summer without seeing rain, or we will come into some issues with potentially flash flooding when the rain does arrive and we do see some storms. And of course, we don't want to see any drought conditions. We've had a dry spring and start to summer, so seeing a week or two of rain is a good thing. I know some people might have plans and might want that heat and dry temperatures, but we've got to see the rain at some point. So it's a good thing we are seeing some rain, because we can see these sort of dry conditions prevail for a long period of time. My thoughts go instantly back to 2018, where pretty much from mid to late June all the way to pretty much the end of July, early August, we didn't see a single drop of rain in the London area and the southeast in general, and it was very hot, but it got to the sort of levels where it was too hot and it was too dry. Of course, going back to summer 2022, we saw the 40 degrees. That again was ridiculous. Lots of fires broke out, wildfires broke out. So we need that rain. I know lots of people love the hot temperatures. I know we love the sunshine and the dry conditions. Go out for a barbecue, go out and enjoy the summer, but we do need the rain at some point. So it looks good here for early July. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Do stay safe out there over the coming days, and I'll see you again for another video soon.